Japan remained a pacifist nation for a better part of the post-war era. But with the rising belligerence of the Paper Dragon, China and Japan are moving fast towards a possible conflict in the near future. As wars have now become increasingly technology intensive, Japan is all set to take down China with its cutting-edge technology. And this time, Tokyo is venturing into largely unexplored realms of warfare, from cyberspace to the electromagnetic spectrum. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Rohan Sasdeva, and in this video, I will tell you about why China should be extremely worried about facing a technologically empowered Japan on the battlefield. The art of warfare is evolving rapidly and becoming increasingly technology intensive. Future wars will not involve huge armies, tanks, artillery guns, fighter aircrafts engaging in dogfights, or other means of traditional warfare. We are looking at a new frontier with cyberspace, electromagnetic spectrum, and aerospace. Let's be honest, your conventional military power doesn't really matter. If your enemy outcompetes you in emerging warfare domains, you will most likely lose a war in the near future. And guess what? Japan, which remained a pacifist nation for a better part of the post-war era, has now gotten a decisive edge over China. Tokyo is a bigger tech giant than Beijing. While Japanese technology is highly reliable and truly state-of-the-art, Chinese technology is cheap, unreliable, and more quantity-oriented. Therefore, Japan is using its technology to outpace China as both countries move in the direction of a possible conflict in the near future. During the Cold War era, Japan maintained self-defense forces for the limited purpose of defending its territory in case of a potential Soviet invasion. At that time, Tokyo maintained assets of conventional warfare, including tanks and other means of ground warfare, coupled with some air support and very limited naval assets. But now, Japan's security calculus has completely changed. With Russia no longer a threat to Tokyo, Japan's energies are entirely focused on Beijing. The island nation is looking to protect its far southwest from an increasingly expansionist China, which is frequently sending in vessels to intrude into Japanese waters near the Senkaku Islands. Japan is looking to mobilize assets that will help it in countering Chinese military mobilization in the East China Sea region. But this time, Japan is using its cutting-edge technology and actively exploring largely unexplored realms of warfare, from outer space and cyberspace to the electromagnetic spectrum. Last year, the Japanese Defense Ministry allocated more than $1 billion towards outer space security and earmarked $28 million for cybersecurity. Some investments were also made towards the electromagnetic spectrum, with the purpose of eliminating aerial threats such as drones. The move is, of course, aimed at countering China's booming combat drone sector. China has been developing AI-enabled combat drones that can inflict huge damage on its adversaries and pave the way for purely contactless warfare. But if Japan excels in creating electromagnetic warfare and defense capabilities, China won't be able to cause much harm to Japanese forces. The South China Morning Post quoted Toshimitsu Shigemura, a professor of international relations at Tokyo's Waseda University, as saying, "Japan's primary concern today is China and the territorial dispute we are engaged with over the Senkaku Islands." Shigemura added, "But it is important to note that these enhancements that are being made to national security are purely defensive in nature, and Japan has no intentions of starting an offensive conflict. Japan is now using its entire security apparatus to bolster its own defenses while endangering Chinese forces at the same time. Let's take Japan's outer space security strategy for instance. The Japanese government's national defense guidelines mention that Japan is committed to launching and using more information gathering and communication satellites for its own forces. It also seeks to develop systems with the capability to disrupt opponents' command, control, communications, and information. Even in cyberspace, Japan is not only looking to handle threats posed by foreign hackers, but is also developing counter-offensive capabilities to hack into computer systems well beyond its borders, should the need ever arise. Finally, Japan aims to achieve superiority in the electromagnetic domain. With this, Japan wants to protect its own electronic communication systems from enemy attempts to sabotage or hijack its operations. At the same time, Japan's military planners want to develop the ability to neutralize enemy radar communications, leaving the attacking nation, in this case China, vulnerable to Japanese countermeasures. As such, Tokyo has embarked on a complete revision of its defense strategy. The revised defense strategy gives the tech-friendly Japan an inherent advantage over China in future wars. Beijing will have to think twice before pushing the envelope against Japan, as the consequences of doing so could be severe for the Chinese Communist Party.